With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
I'm Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com.
And I'm Scott Jason with Fog.net.
This is a replay of WIBW's TV show, The Drive.
Here's this week's episode on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by FlintHillsAuto.com. I am Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, and the man to my right is Scott Chasen of Fog.net. Scott, you're back from Texas. Got to see a win.
Yeah, got to see a Whataburger, too, which was equally as exciting.
That is exciting. I'm over here doing math, trying to figure out if K-State wins the Big 12 tournament, and I'm realizing they'd still have a losing record. That's how
By
bad
quite a few games. They could actually go on to win the NCAA tournament and still have a losing record.
No, that's not true. Now you're just making stuff up. Maybe he's right. You can interact with us on social media at Facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13. And of course, answer our weekly poll question and make your game predictions over at thedriveshow.com. And remember, if you ever miss an episode of The Drive, you can listen to an audio-only version that will appear each Monday morning in the form of a podcast at GoPowerCat.com and Fog.net. And we start things off with our 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill is sponsored by Houlihan's. They've been expecting you. Now let's eat. Doke had a career day in Waco, scoring 23 points and adding 19 rebounds. Scott, the 7-footer, only got off 6 shots the last time these teams played. What the heck changed?
Well, a lot changed, and it really starts with Bill Self. We can bring the camera to me. I'll kind of demonstrate the way that Baylor defended in that first meeting and then how KU changed it up. So going back to that first meeting, Baylor employed a really unique defensive strategy. They had Freddie Gillespie, the big man, stay in front of Udoka Azubuike. So he's fronting the post. He's staying between Azubuike and the ball. And then Mark Vital, the versatile Baylor wing forward defender, he's patrolling the baseline. He's helping off Marcus Garrett, who is not a shooter for Kansas, so he can leave him on the perimeter, and he's going to knock the ball away anytime that pass comes over the top. So you mentioned it, Azubuike had 6 field goal attempts in that game, and now we go to the second matchup, this last Saturday's game, and things completely changed. And, one of the differences was the people on the court. On that first play, you see 2 shooters on the wings, so that makes it more difficult for Baylor to help off. The Jayhawks also set a number of middle ball screens. So one of the things that makes Baylor's defense so good, they position their body, especially on ball screens, to keep you from getting to the middle of the court and to keep you from switching from side to side. They use a coverage called ice, or downing the ball screen, which is going to push you to the sideline and basically not let you spread out their defense. Well, to combat that, you notice where Azubuike is setting the screen on that play, it's in the middle of the floor. It's a lot harder to push someone to the sideline when they are, operating out of the middle. It's also harder to help off the corner shooters because it's a shorter distance from the middle of the floor to either the right or left corner to throw it out there for a 3-point shot. Whereas if you're operating from, let's say, the left wing, that right corner is really far away. It's going to take a great pass just to get the ball all the way across the court, and then also the defense has time to rotate. The last change Bill Self made, Marcus Garrett, he put him on the ball. He was the guy controlling it, running pick and roll, throwing the lobs. Baylor couldn't help off Marcus Garrett because he was the one with the ball, and they couldn't help off a corner shooter because Bill Self moved him to the center of the court. That's how Udoka Azubuike scores 20 points. Garrett had 5 assists for Azubuike baskets inside, and he made 6 more.
It was impressive. It was a great coaching job by Coach Self. He scouted this thing perfectly. He had his team prepared perfectly. And whenever they needed something, he had something to draw up to get the ball to the big guy.
4 days. He got 4 days, and that makes a huge difference. His record the last decade in NCAA tournament games, when you get those extra days, so round of 64, Sweet 16, and Final Four, 16-2. He doesn't lose when he has 4 days to prep.
That's interesting.
Well, Texas led Kansas State by 19 at halftime in a 70-59 victory at Bramlage Coliseum. considering Texas has been struggling too, is this a sign that this K-State team is dead in the water?
Yeah, it is. It looks like it. I don't see them winning another game at this point. Maybe Iowa State to close the regular season in Bramlage Coliseum because they're not doing so swell right now. But it seems like Kansas State is everyone's get healthy game right now. We've seen Iowa State win in Ames. We've seen TCU win. We've seen Texas win. You just go down the list over and over. The teams that they could compete with have been beating K-State and now beating them by double figures. This game wasn't close, wasn't even competitive at times. Kansas State is going through the motions, and if you've been following along, there was an incident at the Texas Tech game in which K-State was remarkably competitive. It was a single-digit victory by the Red Raiders in which Cartier-Jada and head coach Bruce Weber had a shouting match. Bruce Weber slammed a stool into the ground, thus continuing the violence against stools this season.
That's a big problem in the Sunflower State.
It's really gotten to be a problem in Kansas basketball, the state of Kansas. We can't keep beating up on stools the way we are, people. And you can say whatever you want about what was said between the two. It seemed clear to me that a word was said that I'm not going to say on the show, but they've denied that, and okay, that's fine. But still the body language and the confrontation between the coach, and it included Cartier-Jada like clapping at his coach. And it was just ugly, it was unfortunate, and then soon after, Carty had a nice layup and then stared down his coach as he went up the court. And a little bit later, he had an opportunity for an open court dunk, and it went off the back of the rim. He didn't go back on defense, and Texas Tech hit a three-pointer. Right there, I think the team broke. And, the fact that he was able to come back in the game after the confrontation, I think really stung the rest of the players. After that, after the missed dunk, he was done for the day. But he's still on the team. He's still part of the team. And there's an obvious problem between coach and player here that is just kind of fester until the end of the season, apparently. They can just let it go. And now we're seeing the results of that, Scott, is this team is broken. And oh, by the way, they have Baylor and Kansas next week.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't have that leadership maybe at the top with your older players to where, you just have someone who can help them figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's been really closely watching this team understands that there's some real discomfort, some friction here. And you watch how the teammates react when Carty does something. They just kind of walk away and ignore him, which is interesting in itself. Baylor and Kansas are tied atop the league standings with 4 games remaining. Both have a tough road game and other potential challenges on the schedule. Who is more likely to slip up?
I think this weekend or this next week will tell you a lot of that with Kansas playing Kansas State in Manhattan. I think on Leap Day, funny enough. That game, the atmosphere for that will probably reset the situation and just make it different. I expect Kansas to win. I'm sure that they'll be heavily favored in that game, but I think there can be some question just to see how they deal for an environment that will be probably the best they see all year. They also have the Texas Tech game that, at Texas Tech that could be a slip up, but Baylor's got a really tough stretch of 3 games. They're going to go at TCU, and then they play Texas Tech at home, and then they play at West Virginia to close out the year. And West Virginia has fallen off a cliff offensively, and I think they just lost to TCU this last weekend. So clearly that team is trending in a negative direction, but still they go into Morgantown, always a tough place to play, and it'll be the last game of the season. They'll be fighting for seeding and maybe even positioning in the Big 12 tournament. So they'll have a lot on the line too. And I think pressure would be the final piece of this. Neither one of these teams have won a Big 12 championship, a majority of the players. Obviously, some of them have, some of the older players on Kansas, but a lot of these young guys who are contributors don't know what it's like to go down to that last game and say, hey, you've got to win, you've got to put it all on the line, this single game. So I think there are some challenges.
Well, it was slip-up Saturday for teams in the top 4. All but KU lost. San Diego State lost to a UNLV team, by the way, in San Diego. That K-State beat. One of K-State's 9 victories is the team that beat San Diego State. That's a horrible loss. And Gonzaga lost to BYU.
That was coming.
Yeah.
Gonzaga.
Yeah, it was. So I ask you this before we wrap this segment up. Is there a chance if these teams win out, progress through that bracket, and meet for the Big 12 championship, still with only 1 loss against conference competition, that they'll go in the NCAA tournament as the top 2 seeds in the entire bracket?
I think they're close to being locked into that right now. I think Kansas would actually have to do work to not be one of those top 2 seeds. They'd probably have to lose 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Now, a quick look at your poll question results, and poll questions are brought to you by Film at 11, your go fast, look good, play hard custom shop.
Well, last week's question was, Baylor, at the time, 12-0 in Big 12 play, and what will the Bears' conference record be after all 18 conference contests are finished? So we look at the results. 15% of you already wrong because they will not go 18-0. 40% said 17-1, 30% 16-2, 15-3 or worse, 15%.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. I think it's going to be B. I think these teams are going to win out.
I'll take C.
This week's question is this. How many teams from the Big 12 will make the NCAA tournament? This is challenging because you don't know how bad. We got the NCCA tournament.
So then the answer
we
is
did
zero.
A good job editing.
The answer is zero. Then.
Zero then. No one would be making. Here are your answers. A is 4, B is 5, C is 6, D is any other number in the world, including a million trillion. And so make your votes over at thedriveshow.com.
Well,
a million trillion is not on the poll.
Oh, well, it technically is, although it's not a number. But, well, that will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, and we will be right back with more on math. KU and K-State on The Drive.
Getting the crew together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door. Which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Welcome back to The Drive as we continue our weekly 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill is sponsored by Hula Hands. They've been expecting you. Now let's eat. Scott, you touched on Big Doke in the last segment, but he seemed pretty emotional after the KU win. Why was this one such a big deal to him?
I think it was personal for him, not because of any animosity against Baylor, not because of anything that any coach or any player did to him, but I think he's taken a lot of the criticisms of his game over the last few years to heart. This is a guy who, when he came to KU, he was only 16 or 17, so he was not draft eligible in his first year. He knew he was going to have to wait 2 years. His first year, he deals with a wrist injury, misses. I think he played 11 games that year, but obviously never got going. His second year, he was having a really nice year. He played in 30-plus games, and he had some really big performances on a Final Four team. KU surrounded him with shooters. It was pretty much an ideal situation for him in terms of pro potential and draft stock. And a lot of times when teams go on a Final Four run, your stock raises that much more because teams get to see you. But what happens at the end of the year? He suffers a knee injury that really hinders him. He misses the Big 12 tournament. And then when he has to play against Villanova in the Final Four, a Villanova team that set a three-point shooting record and absolutely dominated that game, hitting from all 5 positions, now the storyline becomes, well, this guy can't defend in the NBA. This guy can't move. He's stiff. He gives up threes. Azubuike had to come back for his junior season. Again, this was a guy who was always expected to be gone after 2 years. Okay. Azubuike's back for his junior year. He's going to show people that he's mobile. He can get out and defend on the perimeter. KU, he played in 9 games. KU was 9-0 when he played. They were the #1 team in the country. And what happens? Another freak wrist injury, hand injury, ligament that holds him out for the year. Again, he tests the NBA draft waters. Bill Self thinks he's gone. He even says in a press conference, probably won't get to watch him anymore. The NBA comes back and says, hey, we've still got a bad taste in our mouth. We still haven't seen that you can guard out on the perimeter. So Azubuike's back for his senior year. This is a guy who has completely transformed his game, who has shown that he can defend on the perimeter. He blocked another perimeter jumper in the game against Baylor. It feels like that happens every game. He moves, he rebounds, he puts up crazy numbers. His efficiency hasn't dropped off. He's lost weight. He plays more minutes. He played 36 minutes against Baylor. That's where that emotion comes from, because this is a guy who should not have been in college for 4 years, but his journey has pulled him that way. Now he's getting to show people what he can do.
What you think you know about Doke, if you're judging on anything other than this season, forget it. It's about this season, the current player, And this is a really good big man.
Yeah, he's younger than Devon Dotson. I'm not sure people realize that, and maturity was a huge part of it too. His first couple years, he wasn't by any means a huge problem, but I think he was a little immature. He's shown a lot of growth. I mean, he wants to fire the team up, get guys energized, and be a better teammate as a senior. I think that's a huge deal.
I agree. I think I'd be better on the show if I lost a few pounds. I'd be more mobile. I'd be able to get out there and block your whatever.
K-State is on track for the program's most losses in a season, and the talk of this season ending Bruce Weber's tenure are growing from the fan base. Is there any chance, Fitz, that K-State will consider making a change after this season?
Let me put this as best I can. No, it's not going to happen. The guy just won a Big 12 title. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong this season. Outside of injuries, they really haven't had any injuries. They're paying the price for shoddy recruiting over a 3-year period. I've said that over and over, but it's the truth. The younger guys in the program are being counted on maybe a little bit more than they're ready to contribute, and the leadership from the upperclassmen hasn't been what they need. But most importantly, overall, the performances from the upperclassmen hasn't been what they need. I mean, Xavier Sneed's had moments, Cartier Jada's had moments, Makam Owens kind of struggled all season long. He struggled Saturday against Texas and yet had a double-double. I can't figure that out. I don't know how that works out. He didn't seem to play well, and there was a big struggle there to get over the hump, and you look at the stats in the game, and he ends up with 13, 14, and 10. It was incredible. This team just isn't very good. That's the end of the story. They just aren't very talented. They don't have enough guys. It's just kind of a mess right now for this team. And with all that said, no, this isn't going to end Bruce Weber's time at K-State, nor should it. He has a heck of a recruited class coming in. In the past, I would have probably said this should be it, but he has earned that by winning 2 Big 12 titles and going to an Elite Eight. He's got cards to play, and he gets to play them right now. And he's going to be back next year with a frightfully young team, but I'm going to say this and be blunt about it. You cannot under-recruit for 3 years and then finally string together back-to-back recruiting classes and then play a different card. Oh, we're so young. Well, they're so young because you failed at recruiting for so many years. You can't say next year, well, we've got 7, 8 out of our 13 players are freshmen and sophomores. They're that way because of what you've done. It's not like a bunch of guys left for the NBA. You just didn't recruit well enough. Next year is going to be very telling in the future of K-State basketball, and particularly with Bruce Weber at the helm. I think they're going to be better next year, good enough where there's no change again, and we'll see them start trending up in 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't like this roller coaster. I've said that, but here we are. It is what it is.
Yeah, and from the outside perspective, I would guess that Bruce Weber, like you mentioned, the Elite Eight, the Big 12 titles, has enough faith to go this year, has enough faith probably to go next year, even if things don't go well. And then I think that's when you start having that conversation.
And now we step out of bounds.
Well, we go out of bounds and into the ring as Tyson Fury regained the unified heavyweight boxing title Saturday night in Las Vegas by defeating Deontay Wilder. But the real story here isn't about boxing. Fitz, tell us why Tyson Fury hits home with you.
It really does. And Tyson Fury, this was his comeback. If you're not a boxing person, I get that. I'm not really a boxing person, but I'm a Tyson Fury fan because of this. He derailed his entire career because of what he flatly says is mental illness. It was depression, alcoholism, and he just went off the rails. And there's an incredible interview that he did with Rich Eisen. You can go to YouTube and check that out. They really set off this thought for me. It hits home because I too suffer from depression. And some of the things he says in that interview hit really close to home for me. This guy was heavyweight champion of the world, and he said every night he prayed to die. Now, let that really soak in. So it's not about who you are, what you have accomplished, or anything in your outside life. Depression is what it is. It comes and visits unwanted, and it just sticks with you. And when I get to my worst points in my depression, this song, Here Comes the Sun, means an awful lot to me, because for me it sounds like the warming out of depression, the light coming back. Tyson Fury went very public with his battle with mental illness and depression, and I thank him, and every one of us who has gone through this thanks him, because he's let people know this isn't simply, hey, go out and exercise, go out and do something, why don't you eat better? There's none of that works. If you've been into that dark hole, you know the only way to get through it is to go through the darkness and come out to the light. It's hard to understand, but if you are suffering from depression, seek help. I'm on medication, and he's on medication. There's no shame in this. A lot of people have it. Thank you, Tyson Fury.
It's an important topic to talk to, obviously, and fighting the stigma, too.
Yeah,
very
plus
important.
he's a heck of a fighter. And he's named Tyson Fury. That's his real name. It's amazing. He's 6'9", he's bald, and he's a heavyweight champion of the world.
We would be fighters if our names were collectively Tyson Fury.
I could go by Timothy Fury, his fat older brother.
I'd take it.
Go with that.
Well, now let's hear from the fans. Our fan question this week is, does Kansas State stand a chance next Saturday against Kansas in Manhattan? That is from Danielle in Topeka.
1 in a million.
So you're saying there's a chance?
So I'm saying there's a chance. I don't think it'll be close. It's going to get ugly.
Well, remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. And when we return, we will look at our predictions here on The Drive.
Life as a parent is nonstop. I'm so focused on keeping my family healthy that I barely have time to take care of myself. If this sounds like you, then you need to give Symbiotica a try. Symbiotica is a health and wellness company that empowers individuals to take ownership of their health with high-quality formulas and supplements crafted to boost energy, immunity, gut health, and more. Symbiotica supplements are made with clean, natural ingredients, and they don't contain any toxins or artificial ingredients. Because they were designed for us, busy parents. They're quick and easy to take. Just a daily dose for your energy, immune system, and overall well-being. It's made staying consistent so much easier. And the best part? Symbiotica is having their holiday sale, so now's the perfect time to put your health in the driver's seat. Head to Symbiotica.com for 20% off with code GIFT20. That's CYMBIOTIKA.com with code GIFT20 for 20% off. Your health transformation journey starts now. Symbiotica Natural and Organic Supplements.
Welcome back. As we head down the home stretch of this week's show, now it's time to take a look at our predictions, and the predictions are brought to you by Vanderbilt's Your Work Boot Center. And remember to make your weekly predictions over at thedriveshow.com. Here's last week's results. I picked K-State to win, and I paid a price.
Hey, you're on fire, though. You since the end of football season, have skyrocketed. I've been trending down, but we're going to flip it around this week.
Yeah, good job, viewers. Way to make us look bad. Thanks a lot. Now for this week's picks, we're doing something a little bit different. All the picks have to do with the KU K-State game. Next Saturday in Manhattan on a day. This is weird. It's a day that only happens every 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know about
Saturday?
Yeah, they're having their first Saturday in 4 years. It feels like the first Saturday.
Yeah.
It'll be on February 29th. How about that? First off, the picks start with KU minus an 11.5 at K-State. Will KU win by 12 points or more in Manhattan?
Home teams are doing well in the Big 12. I'm going to take K-State plus 11.5.
Okay, he's saying K-State will lose by 11 or fewer, and I think KU will win by 12 or more. I'm going with KU.
Next, will the leading scorer in the game be a KU or K-State player?
I'm going to say K-State.
Last time the leading scorer, Christian Brown, I don't expect that to happen again. Wow. He scored 20 points. No one remembers because of the Silvio De Sousa K-State incident afterward. I'll take KU. I think Devon Dotson or Doke has got it.
And our last prediction of the week is, will there be a technical foul in the game?
I'm going to say no. I think everyone will be, the players and coaches will be very aware
and lock it down. There's going to be a technical foul in this game. Again, make your picks over at thedriveshow.com. And now it's time for our On the Clock segment. And On the Clock is sponsored by Carpet One, buy local for a strong local community. And let's start with Mr. Scott chasing the fog.net.
We don't have a ton of time for our On the Clock segment today, which is perfect because my topic is David McCormick, who only played 4 minutes against Baylor before committing 5 fouls and fouling out of the game. It was remarkable. He scored 2 baskets in his time, so if you extend out his numbers, he averaged 40 points per 40 minutes and 50 fouls. Look, the backup center position behind Udoka Azubuike may not seem all that important. A player, it may be hard to get into that role, but you can't leave your big man out to dry. Azubuike played 36 minutes. It would have been very easy to see him fouling out or getting tired or getting run down in that time. David McCormick has to play smarter. He has to play better. Can't foul out in 4 minutes.
I had a fan ask me, is this season a disaster no matter what? And I'm like, yeah. It is. Right now, we're just trying to decide what level of disaster this season is, and I fear K-State won't win another game this season. And that's it for this week's edition of The Drive. We will see you next week right here and all week on social media.
Who is June Carter Cash?
You don't know music until you know June. Experience the artist and icon story of talent, ambition, and loyalty.
She had that spark, the it.
June. New documentary now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus. Go to Paramount Plus to try it free. Terms apply.